So now we are going to add an armature here, and before we continue it's good to save the file, so we press Ctrl S to save it, and then I will select this knot and press Shift S to move the cursor to selected, so that the 3D cursor is now positioned in the center of the knot. And then I press Ctrl 1 to move the camera to the back side. Ctrl 1. And here I press Shift A, add an armature. We got a bone now, and then I will rotate this bone by pressing R, and because we are on the back side now, when I press R and rotate, we will rotate around the y-axis, and we have to rotate it in this direction. That means minus 90. Type minus 90 and hit enter. Then I move this bone to the back side on the cylinder, because this bone will now be a stretcher eventually, just as we did on the other side. So I will place or position the bone here, and when it is selected I come over here to object mode, and down here in viewport display I check this box in front so it will be easier to see the bone. When it is selected I press tab to go to edit mode, and this joint is now selected with this gizmo, so I grab the X arrow, drag it along the X axis, and we'll drop it here at the bottom of the slide valve, so this bone will eventually be a stretcher. Then I will extrude another bone. Here press E, drag it along the X axis, so I press X, drop it here. Now we will position this joint in the center of this yoke here, where the hole is. And this time we will do it differently from the other side. So I tab to go to object mode when it comes to the armature, select this yoke pin, and then when it is selected I press Shift S, move the cursor to selected so it will be placed there or positioned in the center of the yoke pin. So now I can select this armature, press tab to go to edit mode, drag this joint up to where the 3D cursor is, zoom in quite a bit, then grab this 2D handle, move the joint so that the 3D cursor will be placed inside the gizmo, like so. Now it is in the center, so and next is to extrude another bone. Press E, and then I press X to extrude it along the X axis, and I will move this joint up to here, like so, and this joint will be placed or positioned in the center of this sheave here. So I press tab to go to object mode when it comes to the armature, then press shift and left click the eccentric sheave, this one, and then I will move to local view by pressing numpad / so now it will be easier to handle this situation, to add another bone and so on. Then I press Ctrl 1 to move the camera to this side. So now this joint should be positioned in the center of this sheave. So I select the sheave. We see that the origin is already positioned here in the center of the sheave. So here I press Shift S, move the cursor to selected. Now we know that this joint should be positioned here where the 3D cursor is. So I select the armature, press tab to go to edit mode, then I drag this joint, grab the X arrow, drag it along the X axis, place it here so that this 3D cursor is placed inside the gizmo. Now we have to do what we did on the other side. We have to extrude another bone. That bone will go to the center of this hole where the shaft is going through. So here I press Shift Z to go to wireframe mode. And to find the center of this hole, I have to go to object mode and then select the sheave, press tab to go to edit mode, and then, see now, I have to select an edge here. Make sure that you're in edge selection. Press an edge, select an edge, press period on the numpad to zoom to selection. It will be easier to find. And then I press Shift Z again and select this edge. Alt left click this edge to select a loop. When the loop is selected, I press Shift S, move the cursor to selection, so now we have the center of the hole. Then I press Ctrl 1, see now, Ctrl 1, and then I press Shift Z to go to wireframe mode. So now we know where the center of the hole is, so I press tab to go to object mode when it comes to the eccentric sheave. Select the armature, press tab to go to edit mode. So now we have to extrude a bone from this center to the center of the hole. And that bone will be very, very small. So I press E, drag it, and I drop it here. Then I zoom in quite a bit. Grab this 2D handle, the green handle here, move the center of the gizmo so that the 3D cursor will be positioned inside the gizmo, like so. Because this bone is very, very small, and it will be very hard to find it when we are going to animate everything, we have to add another bone and make that bone very large. So to do that, we have to make some adjustments here. First of all, we have to select this small bone, because that will be another armature as we did on the other side. We have to double click here to select it. When it is selected, we press Alt P to clear the parent so that it will not be parented to that armature. See now, Alt P, clear parent. Then I press P to separate the bone from the armature. Then I press tab to go to object mode, deselect by clicking here. Then I select this bone. If we now come over to the outliner and go to the bottom, we see that now we have two armatures, this one and that one, as we had on the other side. So this armature, we double click the name and change that name to armature underscore 2, and then we select the new one here, double click, remove this text, underscore armature and underscore master dash 2, like so. To add another bone and make everything to work, we have to change the direction of this bone, and I will explain why. First of all, when it is selected, we go to edit mode by pressing the tab key, and then select this bone in edit mode, right click and switch direction. So now the bottom joint is here in the center. And the reason why we have to add another bone now, there are two reasons. First of all, I would press E to extrude and X to extrude it along the X-axis and make it quite large, like so. It will be easier to find when we are going to animate this side later. But it is also that when you add an IK to this armature here, or this bone, the IK will always be connected to the bottom joint. So if we only had one bone, it would be connected to this bottom joint. But now when we add another bone and connect the IK to this bone, it will be connected to this joint here, the bottom bone or bottom joint of this one. So that's why it's good to have another bone in this case. So when we have two bones here now, I will select this bone, come over here to bone properties. Here I will remove this and underscore connector, like so, so that I can choose the right bone when it comes to adding the IK. So now I press tab to go to edit object mode, select this armature, and when it is selected I come up here to select pose mode, select this bone here. Now we are going to add an IK or inverse kinematics. You come down here, bone constraint properties, select this menu, select inverse kinematics, and the target, well, we select the eyedropper, click here on master 2, and the bone will be the connector. That means this bone. So now if we go to object mode, select this armature and press R, we see that it won't work because I have forgot that the origin of that armature is still here at the first bone we added. So we have to change that. To do that, I will, when this armature is selected, we see that we have the 3D cursor here. So when it is selected, I press or right click, set origin to 3D cursor. But to make sure that the 3D cursor and the origin is positioned in the center of the joint, I will do like this. I will go to edit mode, select the joint, shift S, cursor to selected. So now the cursor, 3D cursor is inside the joint. Press tab to go back to object mode. Now I right click here, set origin to 3D cursor. So now the origin is inside the joint here. So now when the armature is selected, I press R, but first I will zoom out a bit. Let's see now, like so. Press R and Y to rotate around the Y-axis. We see that the armature tries to follow the master, but it is too stiff, so we have to make some changes. The same changes were made on the armature on the other side. That means that I select this armature and press tab to go to edit mode, but we come up here to select pose mode. Select this first bone, come over here to bone properties, and here we have inverse kinematics. We make this bone to a stretcher, 100%. Left click and drag to the right, and we will also lock it in Z direction. We select this bone and lock it in Z direction, like so. So now if I go back to object mode, select the master, press R and Y, we see now it will work, like so. So now we can go back to the main view by pressing numpad / and Shift Z to go back to object mode or solid mode, like so. So now these armatures will work, because if I now press R and Y again, we see it will move, and it follows, the first armature follows the second armature, the master. So in the next video we will parent the part to the bones.